Hey guys, welcome to Priceless B Movies. I'm your host, Colin Price. Now, in a Q&A video I did not too long ago, I pointed out that I had not done a top 10 film list for 2016. This was mainly because I saw quite a few movies in 2016, but I didn't see too many that I really loved. There were only like maybe 3 or 4 movies I saw in 2016 that I would put on a top 10 list. Because I don't think that if you just thought a movie was okay, that means you can put it at number 8. I would rather all the movies on a top 10 list be movies that I really loved. So I didn't do it. I did have this idea a few days ago, though, that, it kind of came to me that there are a number of moments and scenes, individual sequences in some films that I thought were fantastic this year. And there were a number of them that I thought, man, this whole movie is great, but, man, I don't know what the hell that scene was about. Blah, blah, blah. So I'm deciding to do 2 different lists, the top 10 best and the top 10 worst movie moments of 2016. Now, before I get into this list, I want to offer a couple disclaimers. First of all, I am going to be talking about specific scenes in movies, so I'm throwing out a spoiler warning at you guys. I'm going to be giving away crap here. Also, I want to point out that just because a movie made it onto this list, I'm not reviewing the film. I'm not saying this whole film is great. Otherwise, I would have just put it on a top 10 movie list of the last year. What I'm saying is, whether I thought of the whole film aside, this one sequence stands out, whether I liked the movie or not. Now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with number 10. You don't know how to use that, do you? Doctor Strange. Now, whenever I'm talking about comic book movies with my friends, I'm always kind of like on the out, because I'm one of those really weird people who doesn't particularly like the MCU. I'm not saying they're like god-awful. I really loved The Winter Soldier, and there's definitely been a couple of those movies I thought were fun and that I've watched a couple of times over, and they're always entertaining, but I do have issues with the MCU, and one of them is that, at least in the Avengers films and most of their movies where it's an ensemble cast, the sense of humor is extraordinarily juvenile. And it's always just kind of down between just characters making snarky comments at each other, and it never really gets any smarter than that. So I was very pleasantly surprised when, just a little while ago, I saw Doctor Strange, because the sense of humor seems much more clever and much more situational, it was wonderful. I laughed so many times during Doctor Strange. I thought it was a really fun movie in the sense that it's not just fun for kids, it's a fun movie overall. And there are lots of little moments in there, but the one that I picked for this list was, it's a moment during a fight between Stephen Strange, portrayed by Benedict Cumberbatch, and the villain Caecilius, played by Mads Mikkelsen. And they're fighting in this kind of hall of artifacts, and so each little object around them has some kind of magical property that we as an audience don't know about yet, because we are kind of going on this journey with Strange as he's discovering magic and all these spells and all these objects. And at one point, out of desperation, he grabs this thing, and it looks like he's about to try to hit Mikkelsen with it or throw it at him or something, and Mikkelsen just stops in the middle of the fight and looks at him kind of odd, and he goes, "You don't know how to use that, do you?" To me, this is hilarious, because he's kind of talking to the audience as well. He's kind of saying, like, wow, you guys don't know what's going on here. Like, your hero is so outmatched. And it's a great villain moment, but it's also a great gag. And that's why it gets my number 10 spot. Number 9, Bloody Bride, The Purge Election Year. At this point in time, we all know what the Purge movies are about. The basic concept is there's one night out of the year where all crime is legal, including rape and murder and theft. And basically you can do whatever you want as long as you're not using like military equipment and stuff like that to do it. And basically the way these movies go is you usually have a couple gangs of psychos who are all masked for some reason. I mean, let me interrupt to ask a question real quick. If you were going to get away with the crime no matter what, why would you even bother wearing a mask? You're going to kill whoever, you're going to go back to your life the next day. I mean, I don't understand the mask thing with these movies. They're kind of creepy, they're kind of cool, but I don't get why they're necessary. Anyway, I'm getting back to the point. One of the groups of attackers in this film, the psychos as I'll put it, is a group of teenage girls led by this total entitled brat. The character is played by Brittany Marble, who I've never seen in anything else, but in this film I just kind of have to assume that she was intentionally acting badly. But the character, near the beginning of the film, is busted trying to steal a candy bar. And she's basically told, get out of the store. And her response to this, on Purge Night, she's going to come in with a bunch of her friends and burn down the store and kill everyone inside. Because that's not overreacting at all, right? She ends up getting her just desserts, though. See what I did there? When another woman driving an armored van just mows down this girl who's dressed as this freakish bride and her friends, and then for good measure, this other woman gets out of the car with what looks like a sawed-off Ithaca shotgun, walks right up to this incredibly annoying little brat, and shoots her right in the freaking face. If that's justice, I'm all good. Number 8. That guy is iced. Deadpool. Now, I love Deadpool. If I had gone and done a top 10 list of 2016, Deadpool would be on it. You can go back further down my page and find my review of Deadpool. I had so much fun with it that it was really hard for me to pick out one moment in that film that I thought was particularly noteworthy. But the guy in the ice rink getting run over by the Zamboni totally made the list. I don't think I have laughed harder at a death gag in a really long time. But when Ryan Reynolds is sitting on that Zamboni in costume, yelling threats like, "You're gonna die," in 5 minutes because he's taking him so long to catch up to this guy crawling across the rink. Deadpool is probably my pick of the funniest films of the year. And this one sequence elevated it from, that's a pretty good movie, to, this is comic book classic. Number 7. Enter Wonder Woman, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. This movie was really divisive, and with good cause. I'm still kind of on the fence about it. I really like the film in some regards, and especially the extended cut, because it answers a lot of questions that the theatrical release didn't. But I will admit that there are problems with this movie. I can't stand Jesse Eisenberg in it, and I think that the plot is kind of needlessly convoluted. I would say the same thing about Civil War. I mean, it's the idea that you take the bad guy's motives and his plan, and it's like a 300 frickin' page breakdown of how intricate this thing is, when shouldn't it just be you're pitting these two guys against each other? However, whether you loved or hated the movie, you have to admit that as soon as Gal Gadot shows up as Wonder Woman during the final fight with Doomsday, there were so many cheers in whatever theater you were sitting in. This is one of the biggest, oh yeah, moments of the year. And I am so eager to see what she does in the solo Wonder Woman film, because if the few minutes that she got in Batman v Superman were any kind of indication, that movie is going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Number 6. Hell's Bells, The Autopsy of Jane Doe. Now, this is a newer movie, and a lot of people probably haven't seen it yet unless you watched it on VOD. But it was incredibly creepy. It was one of my few 4-star reviews this year, and while I didn't do a video review for it for YouTube, I did do a written review on my Priceless B Movie Facebook page. The movie is about a father-son team of coroners played by Brian Cox and Emil Hirsch, and they have this corpse, this Jane Doe, brought in for them, and they have to try to figure out, how she was killed. And there's a lot of creepy stuff that happens in this movie that I'm not going to go into, but one really nifty little gag that they put in this film is, toward the beginning, Brian Cox is explaining to a character that they put little bells on the toes of the corpses, and the gag being, back then, if someone wasn't really dead, you would know pretty soon because you'd hear the bell go off when the foot moved. And there's a great payoff a little over halfway into the film, when shit's starting to hit the fan, and Emile Hirsch and Brian Cox are just kind of like spooked out of their minds, and the lights go out, and all you hear is a bell going off, and you know one of these bodies is up doing something. And it's very vague, and I'm not going to give away where the scene goes, but what a creepy moment in an extraordinarily creepy film. I think as far as horror films go this year, you didn't get too much creepier than that. Number 5, The Secret Path, The Secret Life of Pets. Those of you who watch my page know that it's incredibly rare for me to even bring up a kids movie, but this one I had a lot of fun with. I went with my fiance to see this movie when it came out last summer, and it was so incredibly funny. It was so good. I'm amazed that it didn't get better reviews. Not that it got bad reviews, but the reviews were just kind of like mixed to good. I think this is the best animated film of 2016 and 2015. I mean, I'll go back 3 or 4 years. This is the best animated film I've seen in a long time. I really love this movie. And I think because, one, of the parallels that it has with Toy Story, it basically is Toy Story just with pets instead of toys, but also because it's one of those movies that was just as interested in being entertaining to adults as it was being entertaining to kids. Not every joke is dumbed down for the 5 to 10 age range. One of my favorite gags is when this elderly dog named Pops, voiced by Dana Carvey, is leading this other ensemble of animals along this roof, and he basically says, well, we could take the elevator or the stairs down, but there's a secret path. This is the quick way. It's the secret path. And he ends up walking off the roof. Now, what we don't see right away, because it appears like he just walked off this building and now he's dead, is that he landed on this little window washer's cart and is being brought back up. But before we see and realize that, one of the other characters, an overweight cat, goes, okay, the secret path was death. Maybe it's just the morbid side of me, but I thought that was extremely funny, and a movie filled with extremely funny scenes. Just like Doctor Strange and Deadpool, I had a hard time picking a funny scene or a great scene that I wanted in this because there are so many. I almost picked the sequence where the vulture is struggling so hard not to eat the gerbil. But it is what it is. And The Secret Path is one of my favorite gags of any film this year. Number 4, Let Me Get One More, Hacksaw Ridge. So Hacksaw Ridge is a war film, an incredible war film, right up there on par with Saving Private Ryan, about Desmond Doss, who's a real-life soldier. He was the first conscientious objector to win the Medal of Honor. And basically his whole deal during World War II, when he was enlisted, was that he would not even pick up a gun. The film is absolutely wonderful, and the main character is portrayed by Andrew Garfield. I mean, he's so great in this film. I am not an Andrew Garfield fan because I basically know him from the god-awful Spider-Man reboot. I'm not that big a fan of his, but he totally won me over in this movie. Everything about this film is great, including one sequence near the end of the film where he is stranded, he is left, the other soldiers have kind of retreated, and he insists on going back into the frickin' eye of the dragon, so to speak, to go and rescue these wounded soldiers who are just left for dead, and one by one he brings them to safety. It's an incredible scene. I was almost in tears watching this, and that's messed up for me because I don't get weepy at movies, generally speaking, but I got weepy-eyed at this. This is an incredibly moving film and an incredibly moving sequence, and I highly recommend that if you have not seen Hacksaw Ridge, that you see it as soon as you possibly can. Number 3, No More Superpowers, X-Men Apocalypse. Here's another comic book film that was pretty divisive, and while I think that it's got its share of issues, I really don't agree with anyone who tries to belittle or talk crap about the portrayal of the big bad Apocalypse. Oscar Isaac is incredible in this role, and one of the best scenes in the film comes when he has become aware of the nuclear arms and kind of our military's deterrent toward mutants, and he says, well, you know what, I don't like that. I'm going to get rid of this crap. And he taps into Charles Xavier, who's using Cerebro at the time, and psychically makes him log in and set off all of these nuclear weapons right into space, and now humanity is left completely at the mercy of the film's villain. The sequence is beautifully set to Beethoven, and honestly, I have a hard time thinking of a point in a comic book movie, of any movie this year, in any action film, where I went, oh shit, well now this guy's really formidable. It's kind of a darkest hour moment. Now the villain holds the upper hand in just about every way. Nothing can hurt him now. And the performances, not just from Oscar Isaac, but also from James McAvoy as Professor Xavier, everything about this scene works, and it's absolutely chilling. Number 2, Caleb's abduction, The Witch. The Witch is a movie that really kind of went past a lot of people. I'm kind of pissed off that it ultimately didn't get the praise it deserves, and I'm really pissed off that it's not even up for any Academy Awards this year. This was an incredible horror film, and I think that the main problem with it is that a lot of people were expecting it to be kind of like Insidious or The Conjuring, or to kind of be a lot of jump scares and really exciting all the way through, but it's not that kind of horror movie. It's more like a slow burn film, and it's, in a lot of places, it's a lot more about what you don't see than what you do see. That's what's really terrifying about it. Case in point, a sequence where 2 children of this family, that are the main focus point of the story, become lost in the woods and separated from each other, and the boy, Caleb, actually happens upon the witch's home. And she shows up, she comes out of the door, and she's gorgeous. She's taken this very alluring form, and she kind of seduces this boy, this preteen boy, and right toward the end of the scene, when you think, okay, this is getting kind of creepy because this woman's getting kind of with this kid, then all of a sudden she just grabs him and the scene ends. And you don't really know what happened until a little while later when the kid shows up back outside of his home, and he's completely naked, running a serious fever, and he's just completely delirious. From this point on, it only gets worse for Caleb as you find out that he has somehow been cursed by the witch, and he ends up having this incredible death scene with his entire family around him, watching him as he dies while they try in vain to save him. It's an incredibly distressing sequence. The acting, especially from the young boy, is devastatingly good. I was freaking out when I sat in the theater and watched this film. But what makes this really creepy, at least to me, is that it's never really explained exactly what the witch did to him that caused him to have these reactions and eventually die. You don't know what kind of spell was put on. You don't know if she physically did anything to him when she had him there. This is a woman that 20 minutes into the movie, we see her literally crush a baby to death and bathe in its blood. This is a serious horror film, and when we know that the witch is capable of doing such horrific things, but the movie never lets us know exactly what she did to this other character, it's incredibly disturbing because it's left to your imagination. Alright, here we are at number 1, my top movie moment of 2016, and all of you who know me, this should come as no surprise. Number 1, Harley Is Baptism, Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad, once again, another very divisive movie. I loved it. I loved this movie. Even though the plot line was very simplistic, it was the first time that I got to see a lot of my favorite Batman villains on screen. And no matter what you think about the film, Jared Leto and Margot Robbie, respectively, as the Joker and Harley Quinn, were the high point of this movie for me. I think that their relationship got nailed spot on. A lot of people like to complain, oh, well, the Joker wasn't really abusive to her like he is in the comics and like he is in the show, and I'm just kind of like, well, 10 minutes into the movie, he's shown torturing her with electroshock, so I'm not really sure exactly what the hell you're talking about. This is the scene, however, it's a flashback sequence where we get to see how Harley becomes Harley Quinn, where she switches from Dr. Quinzel to Harley Quinn. And it's a beautiful scene set in Ace Chemicals where Jared Leto's Joker basically tells her, well, you really love me? You really think that you want to do this because you can't go back from it, yada yada. and she willingly dives into this vat of chemicals that will make her like him. Now, what's really great about this scene is as soon as she dives in, the Joker's first response is more like, oh, thank God she's out of my hair. She's not going to survive this, yada, yada. Because up to this point, and the extended cut makes this a little clearer than the theatrical cut does, but up to this point, he's more annoyed with her than anything else. You know, he feels something for her, but he doesn't want to admit it. And as he starts to walk away from the vat, he stops and turns. He's like, man, no, I actually do love this woman. And he turns and dives in after her and pulls her out. And they have this embrace surrounded by these chemicals and the colors from their clothing that eventually becomes her signature colors, the pink/purple and the blue. This is an incredible scene. And anyone who is a big Joker and Harley fan like I am is going to appreciate how well they pulled this off. And it is my favorite movie moment of 2016. That's my list of the top 10 movie moments of 2016. Here in a couple of days, I am going to put up another video that's my top 10 worst moments of 2016. Expect a lot of frustration and profanity in that video because I am going to wail on some fucking movies in that. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more Priceless B movies.